quantum storm raged across the Helio station's shields, casting purple shadows through Commander Marcus Drake's office viewport. His fingers traced the scar along his jawline, a habit from 15 years of service in the Terran Defense Force that surfaced whenever his instincts screamed danger. The emergency beacon that had drawn them to this sector wasn't standard issue. Its signal pulsed with an alien frequency that made the station's sensors stutter. "Commander," Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through the comm, "the unknown vessel is on final approach. Our scans show, sir, you need to see this." Drake was already moving, his boots echoing against the station's metal corridors. The observation deck's massive windows revealed a sight that made him pause, a ship unlike anything in human records. Its organic curves seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and tendrils of energy danced across its surface like neural pathways. "Life signs?" Drake asked, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his chest. "Just one, sir. But the readings are unusual." The ship docked with an elegance that defied its damaged state. Drake led the security team to the airlock, medics standing by. Protocol demanded caution, but something about this situation felt different from the usual first contact scenarios he'd trained for. The airlock cycled, and through the mist of equalizing atmosphere stepped a figure that caught Drake's breath in his throat. She was humanoid, but her skin held a subtle iridescence, like mother-of-pearl catching starlight. Her eyes were completely black except for pinpricks of silver light that seemed to mirror the cosmos itself. She wore what appeared to be a tactical suit, but it moved like liquid mercury across her form. "I seek asylum," she said in perfect English, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. "My name is Naya. My people." She stumbled, and Drake moved without thinking, catching her before she fell. The moment their skin made contact, an electric current seemed to surge between them, and images flooded his mind, a civilization of breathtaking beauty, a terrible betrayal, and a power that could either save or destroy everything. "Medical team," Drake called out, but his eyes remained locked with Naya's. In those star-filled depths, he saw recognition, relief, and something else that made his heart race. She pressed something into his hand, a crystal that pulsed with the same frequency as her ship. "They're coming," she whispered, her fingers gripping his uniform. "And when they find me, your world will be in danger too." She shifted slightly, and Drake noticed the wounds along her side, glowing with an inner light rather than bleeding. "Who's coming?" Drake asked, but Naya's eyes were already closing as the medical team approached with their equipment. The crystal in his hand grew warm, and for a moment, he could have sworn he heard it singing. Dr. Harrison ran her scanner over Naya's unconscious form. "Commander, these readings, she's unlike anything we've ever encountered. Her cellular structure is..." She trailed off, staring at her instruments in disbelief. "Talk to me, Doctor," Drake commanded, still holding the crystal that seemed to pulse in sync with Naya's breathing. "Her cells aren't just regenerating, sir. They're evolving. Adapting in real time. And there's some kind of energy signature that matches the crystal you're holding." Drake looked down at their mysterious visitor, noting how the station's lights seemed to bend slightly around her form. In 15 years of space service, he'd seen his share of the extraordinary, but something told him Naya was going to redefine everything he thought he knew about the universe. A warning klaxon shattered the moment. "Commander." Lieutenant Park's voice carried an edge of panic. Multiple contacts just dropped out of quantum space. Their signatures match the damage patterns on our visitor's ship, and they're charging weapons. Drake straightened, years of training taking over. "Battle stations. Shields at maximum. And get me everything you can on these hostiles." He turned to Dr. Harrison. "Keep her stable. Whatever she's running from, they just found us." As he strode toward the command center, the crystal pulsed once more, and Drake could have sworn he heard Naya's voice in his mind, "I'm sorry. I never meant to bring this war to your doorstep." The quantum storm outside intensified, as if responding to the tension of the moment. Drake watched the approaching ships on the tactical display, their designs as alien and threatening as Naya's was elegant and mysterious. Whatever was coming, he had a feeling that the fate of both their peoples would hinge on the decisions made in the next few hours. In the medical bay, Naya's eyes flickered beneath closed lids, and the air around her shimmered with possibilities. The game of cat and mouse that had brought her across galaxies was about to escalate into something far more complex, and she had just drawn humanity into a conflict they barely understood. But as she drifted in healing sleep, her consciousness reached out, brushing against Drake's mind once more, and she felt something she hadn't expected. He wasn't afraid. Not of her, not of what was coming. And that, she realized, might change everything. The medical bay's lights flickered as Naya regained consciousness, her obsidian eyes opening to reveal their cosmic depths. Commander Drake hadn't left her side for hours, the crystal she'd given him pulsing gently against his chest in sync with her breathing. Dr. Harrison's instruments had gone haywire twice already, unable to process the readings from their mysterious visitor. "Your thoughts are very loud," Naya whispered, her voice carrying those strange harmonics that made the air vibrate. Drake startled, realizing she'd been aware of his presence even in unconsciousness. "You can hear them?" he asked, unconsciously leaning closer. The crystal warmed in response to their proximity. Naya's iridescent skin shimmed as she sat up, the medical gown doing little to hide her ethereal grace. "More than hear. I can feel them, taste them, see their colors." Her hand reached out, fingers hovering just above his temple. "May I?" Drake nodded, and the moment her skin touched his, the world exploded into sensation. He saw memories that weren't his own, crystal cities floating in violet skies, beings of pure energy dancing between stars, and a terrible darkness that consumed everything it touched. "What are you?" he breathed, not pulling away despite the overwhelming input flooding his senses. "We were once like you," Naya explained, her consciousness gently brushing against his. "Then we discovered that reality was more malleable than anyone imagined. That consciousness itself was a form of energy that could be harnessed, evolved." Her fingers traced down his jaw, leaving trails of tingling energy in their wake. "Some feared what we were becoming. They called us abominations, tried to stop our evolution by force." Drake caught her hand, surprised by how natural the contact felt despite the electric current that seemed to flow between them. "The ships that were chasing you?" "Purists," she confirmed. "They believe that consciousness should remain bounded by flesh, that transcendence is an affront to the natural order." Her other hand rose to the crystal he wore. "This is more than a power source, Marcus. It's a key to unlocking humanity's own potential for evolution." The use of his first name sent an unexpected shiver down his spine. Through their connected hands, he felt her recognition of the effect she had on him, followed by something that felt like pleasure and amusement. "You're not afraid," she observed, head tilting in that alien way that somehow made his heart race. "Most species react with terror when they realize what we offer." "I've spent my life exploring the unknown," Drake replied, aware that she could probably feel the truth of his words in his mind. "Fear of change is what keeps humanity trapped in old patterns." Naya's smile carried echoes of starlight. "That's why I chose your station, your people." Her fingers intertwined with his more firmly. "I sensed something different here. A readiness for transformation." Warning klaxons shattered the moment. "Commander," Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through the calm, multiple quantum signatures detected. "They've found us." Drake moved to stand, but Naya didn't release his hand. "They'll destroy this station to stop what's beginning," she said, urgency coloring her thoughts where they touched his. "The crystal, it's already changing you, preparing you. If you trust me, I can show you how to protect your people." Looking into her star-filled eyes, Drake made a decision that would alter the course of human evolution. "Show me." Naya rose in a fluid motion, pressing close enough that he could feel the energy radiating from her form. "This may be overwhelming at first," she warned, both aloud and in his mind. Then she placed her free hand over the crystal, and Drake's world dissolved into pure light. When his vision cleared, everything had changed. He could see energy flowing through the station's systems, could feel the thoughts and emotions of his crew like colors in the air. Most incredibly, he could sense the quantum storm outside as a living thing, its patterns suddenly clear and comprehensible. Naya's consciousness wrapped around his like a protective embrace, guiding him through the flood of new sensations. "You're adapting faster than I expected," she observed, pride and something warmer coloring her thoughts. "Your mind is remarkably compatible with the transformation." Through their deepened connection, Drake felt her carefully controlled desire, the way his quick adaptation and acceptance called to something primal in her evolved nature. He turned to face her, their linked minds making words unnecessary but no less powerful. "I should warn you," he said softly, reaching up to trace the iridescent patterns on her cheek, "that humans tend to be very adaptable, especially when properly motivated." The energy between them surged, and for a moment, the boundary between their consciousness blurred completely. Drake caught glimpses of her true form, a being of pure light and possibility, choosing to wear physical shape out of choice rather than necessity. The sight should have terrified him. Instead, it left him yearning to understand more. Naya's mental touch carried traces of delight and growing affection. "Careful, Commander," she teased, though her thoughts revealed how his acceptance and attraction affected her. "Once you begin this evolution, there's no turning back." "Good," Drake replied, allowing her to feel his absolute certainty. The approaching enemy ships could wait a moment longer. Right now, as impossible as it seemed, he was exactly where he needed to be, on the brink of an evolutionary leap, with an extraordinary being who saw humanity's potential rather than its limitations. The crystal pulsed once more, and this time, both of them recognized it for what it was, not just a tool or a weapon, but a bridge between what humanity was and what it could become. Through their joined minds, they sensed the quantum storm intensifying, as if reality itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented communion of species. The enemy fleet emerged from quantum space like a nightmare made manifest, their ships' dark hulls absorbing light itself. Through his newly awakened senses, Drake could feel their crew's fear and hatred radiating across the void. Beside him, Naya's consciousness remained intertwined with his, their shared power humming through the crystal that had become their bridge. "Their weapons are designed to disrupt evolved consciousness," she warned, both aloud and in his mind. "They've destroyed entire civilizations that showed signs of transcendence." Drake watched the tactical display with new eyes, seeing not just ships and energy readings, but the quantum possibilities that rippled around each vessel. "Then we'll show them humanity isn't so easily suppressed." The enemy commander's transmission cut through their defenses, his masked face rippling with barely contained rage. "You've already corrupted him," he snarled at Naya. "We won't allow another species to fall to your evolutionary plague." Through their mental link, Drake felt Naya's pain at the words, centuries of persecution and misunderstanding flowing between them. Without thinking, he pulled her closer, their energies merging more deeply. "The only plague here is fear of change," he responded, his voice carrying new harmonics that made the bridge crew stare in wonder. The first attack came without warning, beams of anti-quantum energy that sought to unravel their evolved consciousness. But Drake and Naya moved as one, their combined power creating shields of pure thought. Where their defensive patterns overlapped, reality itself seemed to shimmer with possibility. "More ships dropping out of quantum space," Lieutenant Park announced, her voice steady despite the impossible battle unfolding before them. "Sir, they're matching the energy signature of Naya's vessel." Through their connection, Drake felt Naya's surge of recognition and relief. "My people," she breathed. "They felt the resonance of our joining. They know humanity is ready." The new arrivals moved with liquid grace, their organic ships dancing through the quantum storm like it was orchestrated just for them. Their presence expanded Drake's awareness further, showing him glimpses of civilizations that had successfully made the leap his species now faced. "You cannot stop evolution," Naya's voice rang out across all frequencies, her power amplified by her connection with Drake. Consciousness will always seek to transcend its limitations. The enemy commander's mask cracked, revealing eyes filled with primal terror. You'll destroy everything. The barriers between mind and matter exist for a reason. The only barriers that matter, Drake replied, feeling Naya's approval flow through him, are the ones we choose to maintain. He turned to his crew, seeing the mixture of fear and fascination on their faces. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about choosing what humanity will become. Through their deepened bond, Naya shared visions of what that future could hold. Human consciousness expanded beyond physical form, exploring dimensions that their current science couldn't even detect. But more intimate images slipped through as well, the two of them as partners in this transformation, their beings connected in ways that transcended mere physical attraction. The battle intensified, reality warping around them as evolved and conventional forces clashed. Drake found himself moving with impossible grace, his thoughts translating directly into action as Naya's training flowed through their link. Together, they created defensive patterns that turned enemy weapons back on themselves, their combined consciousness reaching out to protect the station and its crew. Your adaptation is extraordinary, Naya observed during a brief respite, her fingers tracing patterns of energy across his chest. Most minds take years to achieve this level of synthesis. Drake caught her hand, sending a pulse of emotion through their connection that made her eyes widen. Maybe I just needed the right motivation. Their faces drew closer, the energy between them building to impossible levels. The kiss, when it came, transcended physical sensation. Their consciousness merged completely, showing each other everything they were, had been, and could become. Through the connection, Drake felt Naya's growing love for his species' potential, and for him specifically, a being who faced transformation with courage rather than fear. The crystal at his chest pulsed with newfound power, responding to their deepened bond. Around them, the battle had paused, all sides watching as human and evolved being demonstrated a connection that should have been impossible. The enemy ships hung motionless, their crews confronting the reality that their worst fears had come true. Humanity would not be stopped from reaching for the stars, from evolving beyond their current limitations. And through it all, Drake and Naya remained connected, their merged consciousness creating patterns of possibility that would change the course of human history forever. The quantum storm raged on, but now it seemed less like chaos and more like a celebration, nature itself acknowledging the birth of something unprecedented in the galaxy. The evolved ships danced through space, their organic hulls shimmering with possibility as they engaged the enemy fleet. Drake and Naya stood at the heart of the battle, their merged consciousness extending protective fields around Helio Station. Through their connection, he felt the strain beginning to show in her energy patterns. The transformation is spreading too quickly, she admitted, her thoughts colored with concern. Your body wasn't meant to channel this much power so soon. Drake pulled her closer, their energies intermingling more deeply. Then teach me to control it. Through their link, he showed her memories of humanity's greatest achievements, born from refusing to accept limitations. We've spent our entire history reaching for things we weren't ready for. Naya's star-filled eyes searched his face as her consciousness explored his memories. And that's exactly why they fear you, she whispered. Your species doesn't wait for evolution, you chase it. A massive energy surge from the enemy flagship interrupted their moment. The anti-quantum beam struck their protective field, sending cascades of disrupted possibility through both their minds. Drake gasped as foreign sensations overwhelmed his newly evolved senses. Their weapons are targeting your transformation specifically, Naya's thoughts carried urgent concern as she steadied him. They're trying to force your consciousness back into its original state. Through the pain, Drake felt something else, connections forming between his mind and the quantum storm itself. Then let's show them what humanity does under pressure. He reached out, not just with their shared power but with the stubborn determination that had taken his species to the stars. The crystal at his chest pulsed with newfound intensity as he embraced the transformation fully. Naya's surprise and delight flowed through their link as he began actively directing the quantum energies rather than just channeling them. Impossible, she breathed, watching him weave patterns that should have taken years to master. You're not just adapting, you're innovating. The enemy commander's voice crackled through their consciousness, heavy with dread. What have you done? His patterns, they're completely unstable. Not unstable, Naya corrected, pride and something deeper coloring her thoughts as she merged her power more completely with Drake's. Evolutionary. This is what happens when you try to cage a species that dreams of infinity. Together, they created defensive arrays unlike anything either evolved or conventional forces had seen, human ingenuity combined with transcendent understanding. The quantum storm responded to their commands, turning from obstacle to ally. Sir, Lieutenant Park's voice cut through their shared focus, something's happening to the crew. The energy patterns you're generating, they're affecting us all. Drake expanded his awareness, feeling the changes rippling through his people. The transformation had begun spreading, offering each person the choice he had already made. Through their link, Naya shared his wonder at humanity's readiness to embrace the unknown. It was never about worthiness, she realized, her fingers intertwining with his as both their physical and energy forms merged more deeply. It was about finding a species brave enough to leap before looking. The enemy fleet's attacks grew desperate as they witnessed the transformation spreading. But each attempt to suppress human evolution only catalyzed it further. Drake and Naya's shared consciousness became a beacon, drawing others toward their own potential for transcendence. I never expected. Naya's thoughts carried waves of emotion as she witnessed humanity's response to evolution. Your people don't just accept change, you transform it into something new entirely. Drake turned to her, their energies swirling together so completely that it was becoming difficult to tell where one consciousness ended and the other began. Maybe that's what you really found here, he suggested, letting her feel the depth of his growing feelings through their connection. Not just students, but partners. The kiss they shared transcended physical sensation, their merged consciousness creating ripples of possibility that spread throughout the station. Around them, reality itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented union of species and philosophies. Through their bond, they both sensed that there would be no returning from this point. Humanity had been offered a glimpse of its own potential, and in typical human fashion, had decided to run headlong toward it. The enemy fleet's worst fears had been realized, not just of humanity's evolution, but of how they would transform the very nature of transcendence itself. The quantum storm had transformed into something beautiful, streams of possibility flowing like auroras around Helio Station. Drake and Naya stood in the observation dome, their merged consciousness extending far beyond physical form. The enemy fleet had retreated, but the real challenges were only beginning. Earth's governments are demanding explanations, Lieutenant Park reported, her own consciousness now flickering with early signs of evolution. And the transformation is spreading faster than we can contain it. Through their deepened bond, Drake felt Naya's concern mingling with hope. We can't force this change on anyone, he said, both aloud and through the network of evolved minds now spanning the station. Every person must choose their own path. The choice itself is what makes humanity unique, Naya agreed, her energy form intertwining more completely with his. Other species waited for evolution. Yours reaches for it, shapes it, makes it something new entirely. The crystal that had started everything now pulsed with harmonics that matched the quantum storm's rhythm. Through their connection, Drake shared memories of humanity's greatest leaps forward, each preceded by moments of choice, of daring to transcend limitations. My people will help guide the transformation, Naya promised, her physical form shimmering as she demonstrated the full extent of evolved potential. But the path humanity forges will be uniquely yours. Drake turned to her, their consciousness so deeply merged that words seemed inadequate. Instead, he shared everything he felt, the wonder of transformation, the excitement of unlimited potential, and most importantly, the deep love that had grown between them through this shared evolution. Stay with me, he said simply, letting her feel the truth behind the words. Not just as a guide, but as a partner. Help me show humanity how to dance among the stars. Naya's response came in waves of emotion and energy that made the quantum storm pulse in sympathy. Her star-filled eyes met his as both their physical and energy forms aligned perfectly. I chose this station for a reason, she admitted. I sensed something in you, a readiness to transcend not just physical limitations, but the boundaries between species and consciousness itself. Their kiss ignited new patterns in the quantum field, their merged being creating possibilities that neither species had imagined alone. Around them, the crew watched as human and evolved being demonstrated the true potential of their united future. We're receiving signals from Earth, Park announced, her voice carrying new harmonics. They're requesting guidance on managing the spreading transformation. Drake and Naya shared a knowing look, their combined consciousness already reaching toward their next challenge. Together, they would guide humanity through its greatest evolution, their love creating bridges between what was and what could be. The quantum storm continued its eternal dance, now carrying echoes of human innovation mixed with evolved wisdom. In the space between stars, between thoughts, between moments of infinite possibility, two beings who had dared to transcend every boundary showed the galaxy what love could truly become when freed from the constraints of conventional existence. Ready for our next adventure? Naya asked, her energy form pulsing with excitement and affection. Drake's response came through their bond, carried on waves of pure possibility, with you. Always. The future stretched before them, filled with unlimited potential and the promise of discoveries yet unimagined. They had not just changed humanity's destiny, they had created something entirely new, a path of evolution guided by love, courage, and the willingness to reach beyond the stars themselves.